CNN is in panic mode after new polling reveals that despite the Democrat institution's best efforts to paint Trump's deportation agenda as some sort of humanitarian crisis, and after trying to convince Americans why we ought to let tens of millions of illegal immigrants remain in our country so we can enjoy the benefits of cheap illegal slave labor picking our crops, the vast majority of Americans are still in favor of mass deporting all illegal immigrants. And this comes on the heels of the breaking news yesterday after a raid at a marijuana farm in California revealed that 10 illegal minors were working the fields. And the outrage from the left over this raid is revealing the true colors of the Democrat Party. The people who supposedly care about human rights seemingly have no problem with illegal undocumented child slave labor. As always, like the video and subscribe to the channel, but let's take a look at scenes from the immigration raid yesterday at this marijuana farm where protesters were throwing bricks and rocks through the windows of ICE vehicles. So the Democrat Party is unapologetically embracing lawlessness and violence, obstructing and attacking law enforcement, but they're so quick to play victim whenever they end up getting detained or arrested. And this kind of reckless, dangerous behavior is being supported and encouraged top down throughout the Democrat Party. To them, obeying federal law is optional, and they keep saying that the onus is on the Trump administration and ICE for enforcing the law. And if they want this violence and anarchy to stop happening, well, all they have to do is leave California alone. Let them continue to harbor illegal aliens. The Democrats refuse to condemn this kind of behavior, and just yesterday, a protester fired bullets at ICE agents. And then they act so shocked and offended when Trump refuses to let this kind of lawlessness persist and sends in the National Guard or the Marines. We are a nation of laws, and we can't accept protesters throwing bricks and rocks through the windows of law enforcement vehicles simply because they're upset that the law is getting enforced. So after that video went viral on social media, it prompted Trump to comment on the situation, and he is clearly tired of the disrespect towards law enforcement. He said, "I'm on my way back from Texas and watched in disbelief as thugs were violently throwing rocks and bricks at ICE officers while they were moving down a roadway in their cars and/or official vehicles. Tremendous damage was done to these brand new vehicles. I know for a fact that these officers are having a hard time with allowing this to happen, in that it shows such total disrespect for law and order. Therefore, I am directing Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem and Border Czar Tom Homan to instruct all ICE, Homeland Security, or any other law enforcement officer who is on the receiving end of throwing rocks, bricks, or any other form of assault to stop their car and arrest these slime balls, using whatever means is necessary to do so. I am giving total authorization for ICE to protect itself, just like they protect the public. I never want to see a car carrying a law enforcement officer attacked again. Authorization immediately granted for arrest and incarceration. Thank you for your attention to this matter." So his patience on this matter is waning, and so is the patience of the American public. You lose the sympathy of the public whenever you start acting like petulant children and resorting to violence to get your way, especially violence against law enforcement. And that leads to this next clip of CNN in disbelief, revealing new polling that shows that the majority of Americans are still overwhelmingly in support of mass deportation for all illegal immigrants.
Documented immigrants. So we have slightly different questions, but these were all taken within the last month. And there's real uniformity here. That's what I really think you see. You see real uniformity. Deported all immigrants who are here illegally. 55% of the New York Times. Marquette, 64%. CBS News, 57%. ABC News with a slightly different question, 56%. So what you're seeing essentially here is a very clear indication that a majority of Americans, in fact, when they're asked this blunt question, which I believe gets at the underlying feelings, do in fact want to deport all immigrants who are here illegally. There's no arguing with these different numbers because they're all essentially.
So it seems that the Democrat argument that we should all be in favor of illegal slave labor, working long hours under brutal conditions with absolutely no recourse because their employer can just get them deported, isn't resonating with the American public. Immigrants used to be expected to come to this country and be a net benefit to it immediately, to be self-sufficient, to not have to rely on the taxpayer in order to survive day to day. Most people are in favor of mass deportations entirely thanks to the Biden administration. They changed immigration from a mutually beneficial relationship between the citizens and the immigrants into a parasitic one, where the United States has effectively become Section 8 housing and food stamps for the rest of the world. And anybody and everybody is allowed to come take advantage of it as long as they can get here. And when you combine that with Americans feeling as if they're falling behind, as if they can't provide a better future for their kids than what they had, their sympathy and compassion for the poor of the world starts to dissipate. It is basic human nature that you have to help yourself first before you can start helping others. And when people are working long, hard hours and they're still struggling, yet they see illegal immigrants break into our country, completely disrespect our laws and our processes, and then get rewarded with free housing, free food, free medical care, free education, things American citizens don't even get, of course they're going to be furious. Now, Scott Jennings highlights probably the most crucial detail that every Democrat needs to hear and understand, that they think they're being compassionate by supporting illegal immigration, but all they're doing in reality is enabling child slave labor picking marijuana plants.
I just want to go back to the thing I was most concerned about in reading all of this today, and that's that these little children are found on these farms. I mean, are we really saying here in the year 2025, well, we have to maintain the status quo of illegal immigration in the United States because we need little children to pick marijuana in California? It's like blowing my mind.
No, Scott, I think you're making a really, frankly, it's a very important point. I mean, the fact that young children, immigrants or not, are working on these farms, whether they're forced to because they have to make money for their families, or maybe they,
for whatever here to do that,
or for whatever reason. I totally agree that is something that we as a country need to address.
The Democrats who support illegal immigration because they think it comes from a place of compassion and empathy are actually supporting and enabling a humanitarian crisis. They conveniently ignore the statistic that 1 in 3 women who cross the border are sexually assaulted on their journey, and they also conveniently ignore the 500,000 children that the Biden administration lost, who are most likely working in farms or meatpacking plants or other hazardous work environments all across America. And that would be the best case scenario for them. Many of them have been sold into sex trafficking. And while Democrats can play stupid and ignore the real-life consequences of unfettered mass illegal immigration, the American people aren't being tricked. The lies and the deception of the mainstream media over the past decade have caused more Americans to lose trust in their media institutions and actively seek the truth themselves. That's why YouTube channels such as mine have gotten so popular. But just like clockwork, in response to Scott Jennings' comment about, isn't this kind of sad how children are being taken advantage of? The DEI lady on the panel claps back with one of the most stupid remarks I think I've ever heard.
And if we're so concerned about children, Scott, there are parents who are being kidnapped by this agency where their children are in school. There are parents who are being kidnapped by this agency whose children are literally dying. And so if we're so concerned about children, maybe we should stop kidnapping people while their children are dying and their sole caretakers are being deported by ICE. There are multiple cases where they are kidnapping people out of hospitals.
What does kidnapping mean?
It means a government agency has been given license to disappear people. That is what it means.
What does that mean?
Right.
So you mean an ICE agent takes an illegal immigrant into custody?
We got to squeeze in a quick
but you don't
break.
know if they're an illegal immigrant. That is my point. I don't use that term. You don't know what their status is. Okay. And so if you can just come and snatch somebody off the street and say you don't get due process, then that means I'm not a citizen. It is a disgusting thing that we're watching, and anybody who defends it is disgusting and despicable and deplorable when you see the horrific conditions that people are being kept in, and they don't deserve it.
So her low IQ analysis of the situation is basically, if we wanted to help the children, well, we would just stop enforcing enforcing immigration law. It's like, for me, and I'm sure plenty of other Americans, what annoys me so much about that particular argument is that no American citizen is afforded that privilege. When an American citizen breaks the law, nobody ever considers for a second whether they have children, whether they pay taxes or not, whether they're liked in their community. But when it comes to illegals who selfishly broke our laws and entered our country because they couldn't be bothered to wait and enter through the normal processes that we set up as a nation, we're supposed to take all of those other things into account. And her intentionally misleading and inflammatory language is part of the reason why nobody takes Democrats seriously anymore. Kidnapping, disappearing. They believe simply enforcing the law is akin to authoritarianism. That is another reason why illegal immigration is so bad. The human toll that it has on the actual immigrants. They have to live every day in fear. They are putting their family at risk, their children at risk. They come here and think that if they have a kid on US soil and they become a citizen, all of their problems go away. They're exonerated of their crimes that they willingly and knowingly committed. They are making a decision that puts a tremendous amount of stress and anxiety on their entire family. And just because the previous president had no intention of following the law or enforcing the law and abusing all of the immigration processes doesn't mean that the current president is obligated to do the same simply because it would be an inconvenience for everybody who's here. Now, I showed you the poll at the beginning that highlights a majority of Americans are in favor of deporting all illegal immigrants. But CNN's Abby Phillips comes with her own set of numbers that conveniently save face for the Democrat Party and try to highlight that it isn't actually the case, and most Americans are in favor of immigration. I mean, these numbers are so embarrassingly inaccurate, it's laughable, but here they are anyway. Take a look.
Trump has not made immigration less popular. He's not made a pathway of citizenship less popular. He's made them more popular. So now 78% of Americans say they support a pathway to citizenship for immigrants who are here illegally. That's up 7 points from last year. Now, Americans say they want more immigration, not less immigration. Now, Americans say they want less border patrol agents, not more.
So we saw the polls at the beginning of the video, and now we've seen Abby Phillips' poll. So how do we discern which poll is right? Well, common sense would help with that. In her poll, in June of 2024, that's before the election, she claims 70% of Americans were in favor of giving citizenship to illegal immigrants. Well, if that was the case, why did Donald Trump win the election while campaigning about conducting mass deportations? And now on to her second claim that apparently Americans want the border reopened. After 4 years of unfettered mass illegal immigration into the United States, once again, people voted for Donald Trump in large part due to his strict stance on closing the border and deporting the people who came. But now, all of a sudden, we're supposed to believe that Americans want the border reopened and we want more illegal immigration. It's so embarrassing to the credibility of Gallup, the place that conducted the poll, and also to CNN for using it to try to push a narrative they clearly know is false. Now, the last clip I'm going to show you is absolutely jarring, so prepare yourself. We understand the economic problems related to illegal immigration. We understand the burden on the taxpayer. We understand the humanitarian cost and how it enables modern-day slave labor. But we rarely talk about the cost of importing tens of millions of people who hold cultural values that are completely incompatible with ours. Get ready, take a look at this.
Something rather disturbing.
Wait, hang on. Could you ask, was that young man having relations with that donkey?
They say yes, that's right. No trouble at all.
Normal. So you all
Que ustedes todos lo hacen.
enjoy the company of donkeys.
Basically, that's the first wife, the first lover that they have.
That's nice.
All the donkeys fair game? Every single donkey? Or male and female?
Only female.
So they don't have sex with male donkeys. That would be what, weird?
So yeah, when you import people who fundamentally believe that the acceptable resolution to a dispute amongst two people is murder, or that corruption and gang violence is the norm, or believe that women are property and have no rights, and can be sexually assaulted with impunity, or in this case, that having sex with donkeys is completely acceptable, it leads to a lack of cultural cohesion, of cultural unity, which is what makes a country, which is what makes neighborhoods neighborly. People are much more likely to be generous and charitable towards people who share their values and culture, not somebody who bangs donkeys living next door. The problem with Democrats is they have such a childish and fanciful way of looking at the world that everybody deep down is just a pure, good human. And if they could just experience some good old red, white, and blue freedom, they will eagerly and happily assimilate into our way of life, adopt all of our values and beliefs. It's the same philosophy that leads them to think that jails shouldn't be places where criminals do hard time. No, they should be daycare-like facilities where misunderstood, good people who might have made a little mistake are reformed and taught that crime is bad and how to be a productive member of society. They reject reality. They try to pretend as if human nature isn't real, that without strict laws and cultural expectations, humans tend to act on their most heinous tendencies. And people who have lived their entire lives in countries that glorify these heinous tendencies aren't just gonna change to Wonder Bread and apple pie Americans because you brought them here. They just take advantage of the comfortability of our system while still engaging in the same behaviors that made their country so uninhabitable. And when you allow tens of millions of people to enter the country from these places in such a short period of time, that cultural incompatibility becomes glaringly obvious to the majority of people. And that's why, despite the Democrats' attempt to garner sympathy for this issue, the majority of Americans are still in favor of mass deportations of all, not just criminal, all illegal aliens. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments section below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a video. And I will see you guys in the next one.